What's up? What's up? Hey there, Colleen here. Just getting ready to roll and watching my YouTube. Oh, we are live. Hey, thanks for joining. Woo! There's a lot of stuff happening in the world. And I realized today that I've never really done a formal introduction video on Instagram or here on the YouTubes. So I thought today would be appropriate. I'm feeling kind of sassy. So I wanted to get on and see, here's the thing with live streaming. Y'all can see the reflection of my screen in my glasses. I didn't dull my screen, so I'm going to do that right now. But what I'm going to talk about today is really my story of where I've been, what my thoughts are, my beliefs. How's that? I'm at 0. So if you now you can just see the ring light. That's fine. I'm getting another ring light to be over in this area so that I have the dual brightness, and then that ring light can move out of the way because glasses are a bitch and they reflect everything. So we're trying to figure it out in this little pop-up studio that I have. It's super fun. Don't get me wrong. But it's a lot. It's not just like putting your phone in a selfie stick and having at it. There's a lot going on to consider. And I like it because it's a puzzle and I like puzzles. I think that's why I'm in the industry that I'm in, because the body is one of the most complicated puzzles that exists. And it's always changing and evolving with input and experiences and past lives, birth story, and all that goodness. I digress. So I wanted to hop on here, like I said, to talk about my story because I've never done that. And who the fuck I am. That's honestly like what I was thinking today. I was like, I don't know. I put out all this stuff and people are like judging me for it. Maybe some people have been reaching out and posting and voicing their celebrations and their frictions, and I appreciate it all because that's the type of person I am. I want to put out content that strikes a chord, either a nice one or a not even a nice one, like yeah, I'm with her, or a this makes me uncomfortable, or no, I'm not with her. I want to put out that type of content because as a business owner, you learn eventually that you're not for everyone. And that's okay, because if you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to no one, as the good old adage plays. So yeah, I'm Colleen. I am an only child, born and raised in Rochester, New York. And I realize as I go about in this world that I grew up in a pretty fantastic area, household, got incredible parents, and I am very blessed, and I count those blessings and I say what I'm grateful for every single morning or evening, but every day, no doubt, because I am one of the few people that didn't need to do the therapy or the wild experimentation and darkness that many people do. And I know that that's a lot of people's stories and experiences. And never, ever, ever do I pretend to know what someone's bringing to the table. When I meet with clients, it's very grounding and supportive and non-judgmental, and the space holding is there. That is my purpose in life. But, never am I assuming in person with people or on social media that I know anyone's story better than they know their story. And I think that there's a lot of sensitivity these days that we've inherently lost as a culture of being thick skinned to a degree that I think is necessary for humanity. And I'll get more into that in a little bit, but just about me. So I had a childhood. My parents were always, doing activities, and they had hobbies. They taught me life lessons. They taught me things that I needed to know as a growing human of how to be a well-functioning adult in this world. I was always the only girl in college who would bring her own metal toolbox everywhere that she lived. I also had a hand drill and, the things that we would need to fix stuff. And I'm super proud of that. Like, I know my father and mother taught me a lot of very handy things to be self-sufficient. And I think as an only child, you get that. I'm imagining it as like this like drizzle of knowledge, like coating. You get all of that poured onto you. If you're lucky, like I said, there could be only children out there that don't get the attention that I did, or the attention that many parents pay to having multiple children. I digress. So we did a lot of stuff and we traveled a lot. And that was one thing that I found as I grew up that was very different from other people. Was we had a boat, a motorboat. We would take that and we would go to different campsites with lakes, and we would put the boat in the slip and we would camp and boat. And we would, when I was very young, we went through the Erie Canal locks to Lake Champlain in New York and, did that whole routine. I don't know the specifics because I was super young and I'd have to ask my mom and dad what we actually did. I'm pretty sure we camped along the way. Like as we got to locks, then, if it was nighttime, we would just camp wherever that was and whatever. So I had many nature experiences. I had many figuring out experiences and travel, being in different places, not just being in the comfort of the home, which I think really builds resiliency in children, but in people of any age too. As soon as you step outside that comfort zone of the lushness of home and everything that comes with it, there is this sense of alertness that happens, and you kind of like turn on this other part of your brain of, well, shit, I'm gonna have to be prepared for anything, but don't really know what's actually going to come about. So let me just pack all these things and we'll see how it goes. Or you don't pack the things and then you're poop out of luck, but you're like, next time I will make sure to buy this and bring it with me. So you're building this capacity for knowing new things, being able to adapt, and you figure it out. And with that figuring out comes confidence and empowerment, and those things then trickle into other areas of your lives. So from a very young age, I had seen a lot of new places, hiked mountains, been in car rides, been in the wilderness a lot, was in my own wilderness in my own backyard. My boyfriend's messaging me. I'm going to see if it's something that has to do with the live stream. Oh, he's watching. Cool. What's up, dude? And so I'm very blessed in that way that I got to do all of those things. And that really made an imprint on me and my character and my personality as I grew. And don't get me wrong, I had issues with authority and I had issues with other kids because, I was an only child. So I did have that boss mentality and I wanted people to play by my rules of the games. And I sometimes didn't agree with my teachers because I thought that they were whack for whatever reason. And, I had issues with one of my soccer coaches who I ended up forming a really good bond and relationship with, but we had some troubles in the very beginning establishing who was in charge. I was a teenager doing teenage things. And all of those accumulations of experiences has pushed me into a leadership role in this passion of mine, and the passion has changed. So I started out playing soccer and absolutely loved it. I wanted to be a one sport athlete, except weightlifting. I started weightlifting at 14. I just became obsessed with the weight room. I loved it. I loved that I was around all the guys. I loved that it was just fun and I got feedback from it. And I also felt really good in my body. I just loved the feeling of lifting heavy, and then I could work out and then I would go to practice and I would be fine and I would do it all again like the next day. And that, to me, being in my body in that way and just feeling so confident, like, you can't fuck with me. I know myself. I am strong. I am capable. In school, in high school, I was nice to everyone. I think if I wasn't nice to you, comment after the show. And I'm just apologizing now that if I wasn't nice to you, I'm sorry. I was a dick teenager to some people, I guess. But for the most part, I knew everyone's name in my class. I have lots of good memories of school and high school. And I was an athlete. I dated athletes. That was just my MO. And I really didn't care what people thought. I was wearing like bright orange pleather pants in middle school with like tank tops. And I had this like ball bearing necklace with like a paper clip attached to it. I don't know. And in those pleather pants, I also had black, like imprinted zebra. I had hot pink snakeskin. I had the orange ones and I can't think of the other ones. But I would wear jeans and hoodies almost every day in high school. That was before leggings were a thing. So I probably had 10 different types of jeans. And then just a hoodie, like all day, every day, unless for soccer we had to like dress up or dress weird. It was jeans, sneakers, and a hoodie, or like a tank top or a t-shirt in the warmer months. But I just didn't care. Like, I didn't give a shit. And I think that that's what people liked about me, was that I was nice and I didn't conform to anybody's clique. And I was just like, I was a good student. I'm a nerd. Like, I love learning. And so those experiences, like, I had positive experiences from those very young ages, in addition to my parents still traveling, still teaching me stuff. I tore both of my ACLs in high school. I tore my first one at 16, and then I tore my ACL, MCL, meniscus it was like I was 3 months in from returning from my first one when I tore my other leg up, ACL, MCL, meniscus. And my meniscus in my left leg is the one that is currently torn as well. And that's super great. I'm coping and I'm working with it every day. But So I had a very traumatic experience tearing my ACLs because for me, soccer was life. I wasn't like diehard. I knew every single player on the U.S. women's soccer team diehard, but that was my identity. My identity was athlete. And once I was taken away from me, I did not have the coping skills whatsoever to process anger, guilt, shame, trauma, anything. Like no one talked about that stuff with teenage athletes back then. It wasn't a thing. My parents didn't have the tools. Like, they had a lot of tools and they wanted to talk to me and support me, but they didn't necessarily know how to, sit down with your 16-year-old and ask them why they have anger and rage issues and what can be done about it. And so I went along my merry way. I was really angry. My language was very dark. My girlfriend also tore her ACL around the same time, so we were on the sidelines together, and we would talk about some pretty dark stuff in jest, but in processing. Like, I look back now and we were processing our anger in that way because it was the only way we knew how. Like, we didn't have anybody telling us any other way. And so I tore my first one, and then I came back and I tore my other one. And, I have to take responsibility for my ACLs tearing in the first place because I was training in the weight room improperly. And I take responsibility because I did it to myself. And I also recognize that there wasn't a lot of information on this topic of ACL protection trickled down to the high school level at this time. Now, because I'm one of the statistics, in that decade of females in sports, teen girls in sports, there are record numbers of girls tearing their ACLs and tearing their knees up. And it's because we were training like boys and no one knew any different. And no one knew that we had to do warm-ups differently. We had to add dynamic warm-ups to our movements, that we need to be practicing single leg jumping and landing, a whole bunch of things that hopefully people know now. There are so many resources and so many platforms that talk about these things that coaches have access to. But no one knew anything back then. And I only knew what I knew as a 14 and 15-year-old in the weight room using Fit Magazine as my guide to lifting or whatever. Like, one summer, our parents as a soccer club hired a personal trainer and we did all the basic things: bench press, back squat. I don't even know if we did deadlifts. I'm pretty sure we did deadlifts. He took us basic training and we did some outdoor field stuff and agility work and whatever, but I don't remember if there was really anything female specific, single leg box depth steps or box jumps or whatever. I don't remember. And I probably have the paper that shows our progress somewhere in a bin. I don't really care. I ended up tearing my knees anyways. So my identity as an athlete was removed. It was pretty dark. I started drinking at 16. I would just go to football games and different shit in people's houses and drink beer. And most of the time, I don't think there were maybe a handful of times where I was a teenager and didn't make smart decisions, but that's pretty much everybody. Thank you, universe, that I'm still here. I drank a lot in college, and I know for a fact that it was because of this unresolved shit from 2-3 years prior that were just unprocessed emotions in my body, and it was just an escape. I was still a good student in college, I graduated. I still loved being in the gym. I loved exercising. I went to school for art therapy because the creative side and the psychology side really drew my interest, and I loved it. Like, I loved art therapy. I still love art therapy as a modality. I went to 1 year in grad school and it just wasn't my jam. It was so above my head, the concepts for like psychology and therapy at that time. I just wasn't getting, like, it wasn't clicking, it wasn't making sense, and I wasn't enjoying it. I was quite miserable in the schoolwork, but I was so excited working out and helping my friends in grad school also work out. So like creating programming for them was way more exciting to me than doing my homework for grad school. And it got to the end of my first year and I was like, I can't do this. I can't imagine my life as a professional inside at a desk when all of my jobs, my first job was at an indoor turf arena teaching sport birthday parties for kids 2 to 14 or something. Village Sports in Fairport. It still exists. I don't even know what it is these days. At one point, it was an ice arena. It might still be that, but I have no clue. So that was my first job and I freaking loved it. I loved working with kids. I love groups of kids. I love kids being active. When I tore my ACL the first time, my coach, mentor, Coach Polakis, made me get my first coaching certification, my E license. And then when I tore my ACL the second time, he's like, all right, just go for the next one. And I'm like, fuck, okay, I don't have anything else to do. So I got my second one and eventually I got my D national license and got that going. So I've coached since I was 16 years old and I've coached anywhere from 2 years old to 16 years old in either a head coach or like an assistant role. And again, I love the puzzle of soccer. I'm super passionate about it. Can't wait to get back to it eventually when all of this other stuff, calms down and gets a foundation laid for what we're trying to achieve on the homestead. But I left grad school and I told my parents that I wanted to try personal training because I loved the gym and I loved fitness and I really felt drawn to going down that road. And this was in 2012. So I got NSCA certified personal trainer certified. I was so fucking scared for that test because NSCA is one of the hardest, most distinguished organizing bodies of strength coaches. I got the CPT and then I got the CSCS, and the CSCS Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist test is actually more difficult. It is held in higher esteem. It is the CSCS is the certification that they ask for in college and military job descriptions. It's just accredited and it is very sought after, which is awesome. So I'm very appreciative that I can be part of this club and part of this organization because it's fantastic. I got that and I was looking in the library and I was in the personal training section, found a book on pregnancy exercise and absolutely fell in love with the concept of pregnancy exercise. It blew my mind. I read the book by James Clapp. He's one of the leading researchers on pregnancy exercise. And I was like, holy fuck, this is so cool. I obviously had all of these years of working with kids and families. I've come across many a pregnant woman in my time. And I was like, oh, this like hit home. Like something in me was so excited and lit up, and the spark was lit of the next 8 years of my life. And once I started down this rabbit hole of pregnancy and postpartum exercise, I could not stop. I got every book in the library. I ordered books from other libraries. I found research articles on the website. I ordered like resources for parents on pregnancy exercise and like whatever books that I could buy. I also got my hands on those because I wanted to read them. Like, what were people saying about pregnancy exercise? Because I had a personal trainer and he trained me very athletically. And so I knew that. I knew what I knew from my experience of being a soccer player and doing my own thing. And then I am like, well, I want to, like, let's just do what I've been doing, but just apply it to empowering pregnant women and new moms. And as soon as I started reading the research and the books that were out there for pregnancy exercise, it was sit on a ball and bicep curl and overhead press like 3 pounds, 3-pound dumbbells. It was that type of movement. It was very static and safe and, well, boring to me because that's not engaging enough for me. Or do I think it's appropriate for the average human? And so I was like, what the heck? This is there has to be more. Like, women should be able to do more. Pregnancy is a normal part of life. Why can't they do more stuff? Like, I want to put a pregnant client through an agility ladder, but no one was doing that back in 2013. No one was like doing athletic training with pregnant women and postpartum moms in that way. So I didn't have any resources for that. I'm sure I could find some like random blog posts, but it was the start of me experimenting with what pregnant bodies are capable of. And I started off super basic and simple because I didn't know what the fuck. And I could read as many articles as I wanted and got blue in the face. But like, until I started training women and training clients and constantly asking them how they felt and like if they were okay, that's just how it was going to have to be. And that's how it happened. I started training and I slowly but surely learned like, holy shit, pregnant women are so resilient. They have so many cool things happening in their bodies that make them resilient to movement and activity and like work that I became known. Like, I figured out my methodology. I kept learning. I then had to break out and learn from midwives and doulas and chiropractors and physical therapists what they were learning because I wanted to know what they were seeing and knowing about and how I could translate that into strength and conditioning so that women didn't get those injuries or aches and pains for which they would seek out chiropractic and physical therapy for. But I think every pregnant woman should see a chiropractor no matter what, because shit gets wonky and you definitely want that support in a Webster certified chiropractor. And I started putting the puzzle together. Like I said, I love puzzles. So I went in, I started a studio, Baby Bump Academy in Rochester, New York in 2016. No, 2013. I closed it in 2016. I opened it in 2013. And it was super tough. I was doing something that no one else was doing. I was trying to tell pregnant women and moms to lift weights and train athletically when most women don't want to train athletically or lift weights, because that was still a time when it was very prominent that strength training gave you muscles and made you look like a man and all that bullshit. And so I walked through mud for those 3 years of having a company. It was tough. I feel like if it was any other, I can't even say this because I don't even know, but from the outside, other fitness companies that opened or started, be it yoga, hot yoga, boot camp style fitness, whatever, I feel like they did better faster than I did because of my niche, which It's a rhyme. You get told riches and niches. Absolutely. But for me, the in-person experience of having a studio at that time in Rochester, which is a very conservative place, we also love hibernating in the winter. It was tough to get people to come in and trust me and do the work they needed to do. But the ones that did had incredible experiences. I still am in touch with a lot of them today. And I wouldn't change anything that I experienced because I had to do it. I had to learn how to have thick skin, and I had to learn the business of business and how to do shit. Like, I would spend hours in the studio working on my website and learning how to build websites. And now I can build websites in a fucking flash. And it's because I did that work back then and put in all of those hours to figure it out. And I learned all of the things. I read all the help articles on many, many things to build that knowledge base and to suffer for the future experiences that I knew were coming. And it taught me a lot about networking. It taught me a lot about building a community, building relationships, selling, marketing, what I wanted, who I was. I processed a lot of shit because I was in my 20s. So I processed a lot of my darkness and my insecurities and anger and all of that stuff around my knees and around childhood stuff. And, you know, like it was beautiful and it was hard. And that's why I closed in 2016 when my then boyfriend wanted to move out to San Diego. And I said, why the fuck not? I don't want to continue bumping my head on a ceiling that I felt was unbreakable at that time. I didn't want to suffer in business in Rochester for however many years to see where it was going to go, because it didn't feel like it was going to go anywhere. And it sucked to leave the comfort of a hometown, and it sucked to leave my current clients and my parents and a place that I love. Like, I love Rochester, New York. It just didn't feel like I was able to be successful there, and whatever that success meant for me at that time. I also love travel, and I wanted to see a different place. I wanted to live in a different place, and I wanted to see what magic I could make happen in a huge city like San Diego, California. And I went out there and we learned, and I hustled. I learned so much about being in a big community, being in a place that is so giant and has so much movement of people and very different cultural, society, lifestyle norms. And I got to a point where I was making good money for me, not for San Diego, for Colleen, still like East Coast girl mentality. Definitely not a livable wage in San Diego. I was making really good, decent money for me in 2019 and decided to open a studio in December of 2019. And then COVID. 3 months in, I paid rent for 4 months and said, nope, can't do this. Sorry, this sucks, but I have no idea what the future holds. So I'm out. And that ripped my heart, because what I've learned in this process with Waylon and the homestead about my purpose is that my specialties, my gifts is this groundedness and this conductor energy. And like I was saying in the beginning, I never pretend like I know anybody's experiences. I never try to explain other people's experiences or pretend like I know what they're going through, because nobody does. But what I do know that I'm a wizard at is that I create space, and I wrote this down, so I'm also going to read it because I don't want to forget any words. is that I create space for the present moment, and in the present moment for people to heal, nurture, uncover, try, challenge, question, play, laugh, cry, rage, contemplate, and embody. And I am so driven to create that in-person experience. I did it in Rochester. I tried to do it in San Diego, and now I'm here. And my vision has always been, since I opened my studio in 2013, I always knew that I wanted land in the woods that I lived on and that I worked on, and that people would come to it and get the services that they need. And it would be multidimensional services, a multidimensional business with a variety of services that fit their movement, their mental health, their nutrition, their play, their family. When I was super into pregnancy and postpartum, I wanted tiny houses where people could come and birth with local midwives who would help them through that process. Maybe that'll still happen. I don't know. We're just going to become a birth center. Crazy. But just Waylon's probably like, Jesus, just add it to the list of all the other things that we're doing. Why not? Why not? That's like literally my mantra every day is why not? But I am just so driven, and this pandemic had to happen so that I moved I closed down the studio. I moved across the country back to the East Coast, and I landed here to meet this man and get the opportunity to do what I needed to be done. So it sucks that the pandemic has put us on this ride, but it had to happen to unveil and push forward what needed to happen for me and the lessons that I needed to make and the choices that I needed to make that were in highest alignment with my truest self and my truest calling. And I'm realizing that I totally forgot a huge part of what I've done. Because I just get so excited, and literally if things aren't written down bullet pointed, I'm just going. I'm going to backtrack just a scotch. In 2014, I had my studio open for a year, and I was like, what the fuck? Why aren't there any resources for coaches? Because I was going about my merry way, developing my modalities and reading research and putting these pieces together for my clients. But I thought it was so ridiculous that we have training out our ass on how to train football players. But the fact that women constantly have children, there's nothing for coaches. There was nothing for coaches. And so with my boyfriend, who was an athletic trainer, we put together the first iteration of a pregnancy and postpartum strength course, and we marketed it and we built it and marketed it mainly towards CrossFit coaches, because CrossFit boxes around the world are all the same, and you can find them very easily because of their website. And we also knew a bunch of owners because he was a CrossFit coach and box owner at that time. And long story short, I ended up teaching. I have taught over 100 professionals around the world. I've taught in Bali, Hong Kong, Amsterdam, across the United States. And we taught a virtual course in Madrid, Spain in 2020 because my ex-boyfriend and I traveled there to teach in Madrid and in 2 locations in France. But sadly, we had to get shipped back home because everything was getting crazy. So we were supposed to teach in France, but that didn't happen. That's been docked for a future date. But I've also taught at DONA Doula Convention 2 years in a row on birth doulas, physical bodies and physical health and strength movements that they can do because they also go through rigors in the birthing experience with their clients. And I've taught at various places. I've taught in birth classes. I've taught for postpartum. like courses, you name it. I love teaching. I love speaking. I love presenting. I still do it if asked, and I will still continue to do it on the homestead. But doing those experiences and meeting the needs of coaches, I learned so much from different cultures and how they approach pregnancy and postpartum time periods and how partners fit into the equation, because I talked with a lot of males in these courses and a lot of them were dads. And it really kicked off this feeling of that dads and partners are wildly left out of the equation. 1 in 10 partners will experience a postpartum mood or anxiety disorder. It's 1 in 6 or 1 in 8 for women. That's statistically speaking, like what we have stats on that's been reported. I'm guessing it's higher that women are experiencing perinatal anxiety and depression, but they're not reporting it to a doctor or a clinician. Now during a pandemic, I feel like it's like 1 in 2 of us is anxious or depressed. So all of that information, I was like, blah, like I want to do things that include dads and partners. Oh, I have the hiccups. Sorry. So I went from a title of Baby Bump Academy. I was very woman centric. Then the studio that I tried to open was under the brand name Co-Create, because co-creation, that's how you make a baby, is you co-create. I also wanted to co-create with other professionals, having multiple professionals teaching in the space. And I also wanted something that was more masculine in name so that dads didn't feel uncomfortable going to this space and being like, oh, I'm going to co-create. It wasn't like they were saying, oh, I'm going to Baby Bump Academy, because I got feedback. Dudes did not want to say that they were going to Baby Bump Academy, and that's cool. I get it. And so I wanted to bring in more dad and partner stuff, dad groups, more partner dad events that were geared towards things they liked, like cigars, cigar tasting, whiskey tasting, just those typical things, which we will do. But with Co-Create, I started to trickle in the idea of these family workouts, and I really was interested in this being the mainstay of my studio, because over the years, it was really apparent that once you had the child, it was very hard to find time for yourself. And I'm sure every parent can raise your hand and agree. And so moms were wanting their time, but they had to bring the baby with them. And a lot of gyms didn't allow that. But she would leave maybe baby at home with partner or dad. And then so many of my clients would get text messages from their partners and be like, the baby hasn't stopped crying. What do I do? Where's the bottle? What do I do? Like, there would be texts and questions and statements, and, you know, that puts added stress on the woman as she's present with me trying to do her thing and have her own space. So I had those stories piled up of like, this is fucking hard to get me time, but then also partner time, because when else do you have time to be partners once kids come along, unless you're very, very intentional and great at making that time and hiring a sitter because you have those resources, or shoving them off to the in-laws or parents, grandparents, because they live near you, which again, we live in a society that's very spaced out, and a lot of us don't live near family. And that was very true in San Diego with military family and transplants. They didn't live around family, and they didn't have those close friends and connections yet. And in my head, I was like, well, why are we continuing to make this challenging for ourselves? Why can't we just all work out together? Even if you have a 3-year-old who doesn't want to sit down, they can engage, like they can play with us. I did this for 3 years at my studio. There was no childcare room and there was no childcare attendant. We just had kids pushing all of the balls that they could find in the studio. They were all over the studio. They would push the weight balls around. They would walk into the tire because it was laying on the ground. They would walk in and they would sit in it, and then they would get out, and then they would put the balls in the tire. Like, it was organized chaos, and it was beautiful. And all of the clients were all there watching the kids. If someone was swinging a kettlebell, I would stand guard and protect them. I would protect a child from getting whacked in the head with a swinging kettlebell. And we just flowed, and it was so easy. It's not rocket science. It's not hard to give a kid something to distract them or make them feel better. I baby wore multiple times of babies. Moms would bring the whatever. They would strap me in, put the baby in. The baby would fall asleep, and all was good. And I coached like that through the workout. Oh my God, there's so many stories. But like, we had newborns all the way up to older kids. And the older kids wanted to do the stuff that we were doing. So I would just modify and give them a lighter dumbbell or no dumbbell, or they would go through the agility ladder with us and copy what mom was doing. And it's beautiful. You know, they're learning self-care as they attend these classes with their parents. And then at the end of the day, I was like, well, we got half the family, but we don't have the partner. And when I did have partners, it was so lovely because the partner watched their pregnant or postpartum client do these amazing movements. And just like, I feel like they fell a little bit more in love with their counterpart because they just had a new appreciation for what their partner was capable of, and vice versa. And it builds that different type of relating outside of the common bonds that they already have in their relationship. And you gain just a deeper, I already said respect, but it's just like this new layer that you're like, whoa, I didn't know that about my partner, and it's fucking cool. And I appreciate their being in this really cool new way. And I love giving that to people. Like, that is the magic of movement and being together. So now we're in a space of outside and giant mechanics shop that's getting renovated. And we're starting out with grit hikes, which are all for the family focused, family oriented. And, you know, eventually down the line, we will have all those things. We will have like dudes nights and whiskey tastings and cigars and beer and whatever dudes are into, like, let's do it and get them there. And dads will have specific things, and, you know, support groups, and making mental health something that is necessary and needed. It is not cliche to reach out and get a therapist and have a therapist and go to a men's support group or dad's support group led by a male mental health therapist. Like, there's no shame in the mental health game. We all need it, especially after this year. Please research and do yourself a service by making sure the therapist is PSI is Postpartum Support International. They have a certification for therapists to be perinatal focused. PMADS is perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. Find a therapist that understands the adventure of parenthood, because I know that there are some therapists out there that aren't focused necessarily on parents, and that can be really hard. That can be a really hard person to get therapized with. I don't know. That's not the right word. They just might not know what you're going through and be up to date on the research. I guess that's what I'm saying. So you want someone who's focused on that, so they're current on the research and everything that there is to know scientifically and evidence-based wise. That's really important. But what we're doing now, all of this knowledge has rattled around in my brain, and I've trained clients and seen what movement and community does for our mental health and emotional health and spiritual health. That's movement. And now I also am adding in the layer of nature, and nature therapy is a thing. I'm looking at my book collection because I bought 5 books all about nature therapy to learn more because I'm a nerd. So now we're layering in this aspect of being outside in the wilderness with the trees and the grass and the dirt and the bugs and the wildlife, and what that actually does for our human body and our psyche and our soul, and how that adds another layer into what specific good for you movement does for you. So now we're starting to pack in multiple layers of opportunity to be your best self and be on the journey of healing and healed and discovery and curiosity and play and laughter. You'll see a video with Waylon and I. We're going to record some stuff tomorrow, and our interactions together are very giddy and love-filled and playful, and that's what we're bringing to the community. Life is really serious right now, and I think life in general before the pandemic was people take it really seriously. And at the end of the day, the only way we can break those habits and those mental patterns is we have to inject something different if we want different outcomes, right? So the only thing that we can do to help our brain be more curious and open to new experiences and comfortable with that is we have to be in a safe space, which we're creating. But then we have to engage in some type of play and playfulness, either encounters or activities like fun games. And it breaks us just out of that shell of structure and like, this has to be this, and whatever patterns those are that are no longer serving you for where you want to go. And that's going to be the mental health side of movement and wilderness, is the activities and the events and the workshops that we do will have all of these things tied in together. Because as I've gone in my 8 years professionally, but 16 years in movement, I learned very quickly that fitness, like being a fit human, is really not all about the your physical meat suit that you're wearing. It's really about what happens mentally and emotionally and spiritually when your body is healthy and capable and strong. What comes of that is that confidence and empowerment and opportunity in everything after the workout. Like, your body is just your vessel, but what you're really training is your belief in yourself and your trust in yourself and that resiliency to try new things and fail and get back up and try again. You ask any person who does Olympic lifting, their journey with Olympic lifting, it's so incremental. Like, you start and it sucks because it's a complicated movement, but then you like kind of get the movement, but then you start to add weight, so then it sucks again. And you keep going on this like back and forth journey of growth over a long period of time. But the practice and consistency of doing the movement mechanics well will lead to you floating large amounts of weight onto your front rack or over your head or wherever. And it's astonishing and it's beautiful. But that journey of the mental game of being so good and then be taken back a couple notches because you changed something up by adding the weight. And, you know, it's a mind fuck. Lifting heavy weight and getting to bigger weights and getting to faster speeds and getting more powerful. It's so mental. Like, you have to have so much confidence in yourself. And I'm sure people will say this about practicing any athletic thing, sport or martial art, or skill. You do it and then you challenge yourself and then you feel like a beginner again. And then you practice and you challenge yourself more and then you feel like a beginner again. And that's just life. That's us learning and acquiring knowledge to be more efficient. And yet when it comes to life, we don't apply those same factors. But every day you wake up, you're a new person because you live 24 hours and you learned and acquired new experiences, unless you are literally doing the same exact thing every single day and don't have new experiences to influence you. I don't know how that's possible in this day and age, but like, okay, you're an anomaly. But most of us are having different novel input and stimulus because we're going to different places. We saw different people at the grocery store or new people at the park or whatever. And so we're acquiring this new knowledge about the world and ourselves, assimilating it as we sleep, and then we wake up and you're a new person. And what you did in the previous day is leading you to then be a more evolved version of yourself. And it's pretty cool because you can choose to do a lot of stuff in the present moment that leads to you being a better person tomorrow and the next day, in the next year, in the next 5 years, 10 years, for the rest of your life, because you accumulate whatever it is and then you process it and then it changes you. And is what you're inputting every single day something positive or something negative? Is it leading you towards your goals or is it leading you nowhere because you don't have a vision of your life or your goals or your passions or what your soul's calling is? And you don't do anything and you just sit distracted on Instagram all day. That's a life choice. Like, that is your choice. I posted a video today, or I posted a video. It is a video. It's also a photo of me in my No Prince Charming apparel. And it says, their slogan is the beauty and the beast. No Prince Charming. Because it's about women not buying into the narrative that they need to be saved to be happy. And I posted a post of, like, some words about this, so you can check it out. You know, really stemming from classic Disney movies where there was a damsel in distress and the prince came and saved her and they lived happily ever after. It's not real. But it's still ingrained in us and it's still ingrained in a lot of women and men too. You know, there's a whole side of the prince that doesn't get talked about. You know, the prince boys have a lot put on their shoulders with Disney movies because they have to look a certain way. They have to have a certain dress. They have to present themselves a certain way to the princess to not be misunderstood. And then they have to save women. Like, you have to save your partner to live happily ever after. That's what the boys' side, in my opinion, is, which again is bullshit. Like, men don't need to save anybody. Women don't need to be saved. And so that was my post. And it's because I've been hearing a lot of this input lately from different sources, mostly positive. I follow a lot of positive humans on social media and watch only positive humans in my choice of what media I'm consuming. And I was exercising, I was riding the bike today, and this like theme of empowerment and making bold choices and doing you however that looks in this moment, whatever you need to do to be present, to be healing, to be content. And I was riding the bike pretty meditatively. I wasn't listening to music or anything. And I was like, shit, dude. Like, my future nanny family texted me and I was like, people depend on me. Like, a lot of people in my current life depend on me to show up, to do certain tasks. I've taken on that responsibility and said yes to those responsibilities to be dependent on. And, I was exercising and I was just contemplating that it would be really easy for me to not be exercising in the current moment because I really wanted to record some videos, work on our website, do a bunch of computer stuff still. And I was just like, no, I have to be doing this work to be a functional, healthy human being because people are depending on me for certain things in the near future, right? Like, I've committed to a variety of things. And then I feel like this is a lot of entrepreneurs and people who just want to serve the community. But, my brain went to, and there are so many other people that don't know that I exist yet that are also depending on me. People that are going to have their lives changed by a video that I put out, something that I post, in the future, in-person gatherings, once we have everything squared away and we open our doors for those amazing, incredible moments of togetherness that we're going to have. Those people, those future people, are depending on me to do the work right now, to be my best self, to be my healthiest self. And I take that on my shoulders. Like, I don't want anything else on my shoulders. Like, I don't want anything else but to serve my community from a place of love and non-judgment and openness and opportunity so fucking bad that these are my thoughts. Like, these are my real thoughts that I had when I was on that bike. And that is what drives me. That is what motivates me. That is what excites me. That is what gets me up every single morning, is the potential of service to humankind to make their suffering a little less by making sure that I'm showing up consciously and intentionally and aware and figuring out my own stuff and my own suffering so that I can be more of love and light to others and be that grounded conductor that I know that I am. And I know it's just going to get stronger, and that's beautiful. And it's going to come with its hardships and whatever else is going to come my way to really challenge my, who I am and what I'm doing. Of course, I know, but I trust that whatever comes is going to be what needs to come to help me learn the lessons and keep moving forward and keep evolving. I always say level up. I like to think of that we're like Super Saiyans and we get to the next, Super Saiyan level and hairdo and hair color. Yeah, life is fun. So I'm going to stop there. That's been a lot of time. I hope that you enjoyed listening, and I also hope that you enjoyed watching. If you want to leave a comment, please feel free to after the live recording, and I would be happy to engage and have conversations. But you can follow me on Instagram at Wilderness Bae, BAE, and then you can follow the business, Shade Tree Homestead. That's the handle on Instagram as well. I can't wait to continue recording and sharing, and hopefully you walk away with something. But at least you get to know me a little bit more and like what I'm all about and my past, present, and vision, future of what I want to be doing. And there will be more about that future vision and upcoming episodes and videos. So go out, have fun, breathe, drink some water, eat some good food. And until next time, I will see ya.